Hey friends, before we get into the video, I quickly wanted to remind you that there's still one more week left in my draft buff contest, which you can join through the link in the description. Like the previous 2 weeks, the same format is going to apply. Draft 6 players in one team who you believe will earn you a lot of points while trying to stay under the salary cap limit for the week. If you come in first place, then you win a free jersey out of it. It's a win-win situation. You get to play for fun and for free for that matter, and there's a prize involved. With there being some time off before the Final Four, you have a lot of time to study, strategize, and edit your lineup throughout the coming days. You've got a lot of time, but you should definitely join the league before you forget through the link in the description. Lineups officially lock at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on October 8th. Compete against me and other fans to see who has the biggest brain around here. Good luck to all who participate, and now on to today's video. After a long wait, the Overwatch League MVP was announced last weekend. Through his extremely successful campaign on the Shanghai Dragons, Fleta took home the prestigious MVP award here in Season 3. But as the question states in the title, did he deserve it? Should Fleta have earned this award, or should it have been somebody else? That is going to be the basis of today's video. I'm going to answer that question and will attempt to back up the selection by highlighting the bright spots of Fleta's year. But first things first, let me straight up answer the question right now so you know where I stand in this video. So, does Fleta deserve the 2020 Most Valuable Player Award? Yes. In my opinion, it is 100% deserved. Fleta had a phenomenal year and it's not up for debate. And don't even type that he's on a good team or that he gets carried by other stars. I don't want to hear it. In my opinion, that could not be more false. Well, at least the carrying part. Fleta played just as well as everybody else on that Shanghai team, if not better. Arguing he's the best player on his team is completely reasonable. He has without a doubt been one of the most reliable and consistent DPS players in the Overwatch League. Forget about naming DPS players I'd rather have. There's very few players who I'd even consider to be at his level currently. Like, who is there? There's Carpe, some of the Shock DPS, then you have Prophet and some other guys out there, but the point I'm trying to make is that Fleta is of elite status. He is not some run-of-the-mill DPS player who is easily replaceable. Fleta is the type of player who is a rare find. His unique skill set and playmaking capabilities are of legendary status. He gave this position a whole new meaning this year. He may have taken the word flex a bit too seriously because this guy literally played everything, and it's not even like he played a bunch of heroes and he was just average on them. Through all of the different metas, he has been one of the best at his role. Think about all of the heroes he played a fair amount. I'm talking about the characters that have been meta-dependent like Mei, Tracer, Echo, Genji, Reaper. He has at least 2 hours of playtime on all of them, and out of any of those heroes, which has he not been in the top half of the league on? You can maybe argue his Reaper and Genji have not been god tier, but they're still pretty darn good. Let's talk about some stats over on the Overwatch League Stat Lab. He might not do top damage on these 2 heroes, but he still does make significant contributions on them. On both of those heroes, he is top 8 or better in final blows and eliminations. What sticks out even more to me though is his decision making. It can be easy to say that he has such a low death rate on these heroes and other heroes for that matter because he plays on a dominant team, which in all honesty is fair and valid. But I like to think it's the intelligence factor that makes this remain constant with everything he plays. It is obvious whether you look at his combined averages or through all of his main characters one by one. Take Tracer for example. Given her low amount of HP, she could be an easy hero to feed on. Look at somebody like Shax who shows dominance on the hero and yet dies over 6 times per 10 minutes. Fleta not only has that dominance factor, but only 4 deaths per 10 to go along with it, which is good enough for top 5 in the league. And guess what? His damage stats are comparable to top Tracers. He's tied with Striker for final blows, and he's only outputting about 300 less damage per 10 than Shax, despite being on a team with more playmakers. And guess what? This consistently translates with all of his other main heroes. This is even true for some of the characters he has less than an hour of playtime on, like Pharah for example. The only hero I can really think of that he hasn't been amazing on with any real playtime is Torb, but like, it's Torbjorn. That's really not a big deal given how low his pick rate is. I think you guys understand what I'm trying to get at though. Dominance is only part of the picture. His flexibility makes him absurdly valuable. There's a reason he's played over 21 hours this year. That's how crucial he was towards Shanghai's weekly plan. They needed him to step up and play whatever the team needed him to. And guess what? He's performed week after week after week for his team, even with all of that trust and all of those expectations on him. There's plenty of other top tier DPS players out there who don't have the versatility needed to play through every single meta. Look at Carpe. Even though he has put up some ridiculous performances this year, he's not well suited for certain compositions like ones involving Reaper and Sombra. That's what allows for Fleta to stand out so much. Compatibility issues don't hold him back. As the old saying goes, Fleta is the meta. This doesn't feel like the Fleta of the past though at the same time. The explosiveness is still there, yeah, sure, but the weaknesses are gone. He doesn't have the occasional flexibility problems that sometimes would hold him back on the Seoul Dynasty. Heroes like Mei and Tracer are no longer a problem, and all of the consistency issues are straight up just gone. It's not just the individual hero numbers as well as his flexibility that makes Fleta so great though. He truly has achieved a lot when looking at his totals on the year. I mean, look at him. Top 6 in total final blows, top 5 in E-limbs, top 12 in hero damage, and the 5th highest final blow to death ratio. That's not something that should be laughed at or taken lightly. Out of everyone in the league, he is in the top percentile for pretty much everything you can think of. Can an argument be made that his stats are maybe a little overinflated from only playing the same 7 teams over and over? Sure, that's completely fair. But I don't think it would be any different if he played in the North American region. There would likely be only a few teams that could still truly stand up to the Dragons in that region as well. And don't just think Fleta puts up the numbers when the game is not on the line or in garbage time, if you will. Look at how he does during team fights in the clutch while his team does not hold any sort of advantage during overtime. So Fleta's win rate in team fights that take place during overtime is a staggering 66.7%. That is a league high if you are wondering. The chart you see is of people with at least 50 of these fights under their belts, by the way. He doesn't necessarily have the number 1 placement in terms of people with less team fights, but this is just for people who have a lot of them. The only real downside I can think of is that there are a small handful of players who get more kills on average in these instances, but the counter argument can be made that none of these players have a higher win rate than Fleta. What's insane to me though is that he's slightly higher up than all of his Shanghai teammates, even though they all play just as much as Fleta does and they have the same credentials going on and everything. It goes to show you just how instrumental he has been in team fights. And again, it kind of intertwines with his flexibility. He's doing this on various characters. Whether it would be a sudden swap on a Tracer during a control map or domination in the skies as Echo, he always appears to be in his comfort zone. Nothing ever seems to faze him. He doesn't crack under the pressure. The one thing on his mind is winning, and it shows. While Fleta is not a perfect player who can literally do no wrong, he's closer to it than most, I'll tell you that much. As far as I'm concerned, he has everything going for him that makes someone extremely valuable. He's clutch, he's flexible, he's got good stats across the board, and most importantly, his team won a lot of games this year. His domination translates into team success. These are the types of things that make me believe he is more worthy than a majority of the players on the ballot. Generally speaking, Fleta winning the MVP is great, but would he be my number 1 choice? Probably not. If any of you watched my MVP video a while back, you would know that Fleta was in my top 3. He came in 3rd. I had both Carpe and Void above him, and I still stand by that as I think they're a bit more valuable. I know he wasn't utilized every single game, but Carpe in my opinion had one of the most dominant seasons by a hit scan in the history of pro Overwatch. It's hard to overlook having the highest final blow to death ratio in the league, and getting over 1,000 final blows definitely puts him in the same position as Fleta. He might be on a team full of superstars, but he still does put in a lot of work. And you guys saw the clutch final blows chart from before. Fleta might have the highest win percentage on there, but Carpe by far has the most final blows. And winning about 60% of team fights is still pretty solid. And I mean, when he has played this year, he has literally been one of the best at his position, if not the best. Ashe, Tracer, Widow, McCree, he did it all. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little biased because the appeal of Carpe winning is so blinding. But regardless, I can still understand why the league would give Fleta this award instead. He is technically more reliable given that he has practically been meta-proof this year. If you're always there for your team, then that should in theory make you more valuable than somebody who puts up the same numbers as you but does spend some time on the bench here and there. As for Void, I wanted to give him this award over Fleta simply because he arguably had the most dominant season we've ever seen from a tank. And I'm not just talking off tank, I mean from tanks in general. I've gone over it several times here on the channel before. What he did this year is not normal. Off-tank players should not be allowed to do this. It should be illegal to have more total damage on the year than MVP level DPS players. In what world is that okay? Did you know that he still hasn't hit the 500 death mark after 23 hours of play either, by the way? That's lowest among all tank players with 20 or more hours, and it's not particularly close. He also has proven himself on every single off-tank hero that he's played this year, and I would argue he's been one of the best on all of them. His kill participation on Sigma, Zarya, and D.Va is some of the best you'll see. What makes Void more special than the common bloodthirsty tank player though is his level of intelligence. His IQ is one of the best hands down. It's not often that he makes a questionable decision or he ends up getting caught out of position. He has a great understanding of how to play this game within this current system. Combine Sigma, Zarya, and D.Va, and we're looking at a player that dies a league low 3.5 times per 10 minutes. It's surely up for debate, but in my opinion, he has had one of the greatest single seasons of any tank player to ever touch the game. How he manages to make so many smart choices while still fragging out of his mind and protecting his team is beyond the comprehension of my tiny brain. I just cannot process it. Void is a god. He deserves just as much credit as Fleta for Shanghai's success. We've seen supports and DPS players have historic years before, but this is the first time we've really seen a tank at this level in the Overwatch League. Hence why I believe Void deserves this award slightly more than Fleta. But again, just like with the Carpe thing, it's not the biggest deal. I'm not going to throw a hissy fit over Fleta getting the MVP award over Void. He genuinely had a fantastic season. There are plenty of other people out there who would be better to freak out over for winning this award. Fleta is simply not one of those people. I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks this way, but it genuinely does feel like there are very few options out there that were better than Fleta. For me, it's only the two, but for others it might be a little bit more. But regardless, I would say probably like 90% of us saw Fleta as a top 10 or so choice. Think about that for a second. There's around 200-ish players in the Overwatch League currently, I believe, and I would say close to half of them get a fair amount of playtime. So out of like 100-ish players, I would say, there's probably around like 10 of them at most that people would consider picking over Fleta. And for a lot of us, it's way less than 10. I literally only would have picked 2 other people over him, and it's not like it wasn't close. Void and Carpe don't blow Fleta out of the water or anything. They're all right there with each other. They basically all deserve it equally. So Fleta getting MVP is completely fine. So just to confirm it one more time, Fleta, in my opinion, deserves the 2020 Most Valuable Player Award. He had one heck of a year. That's pretty much all I really have to say about it though, so now I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down in the comment section. Do you think Fleta deserved to win the Most Valuable Player? Why or why not? If you think somebody else should have won, then give me some names. I'd love to hear your take on it down in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video though, you already know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and follow my socials through the links in the description. Oh, and don't forget to join the Draft Buff League for a shot at a free jersey. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.